Oh, sorry. Hello, everyone. My name is Elisa, or Ellie Richburg, and today I'm going to be presenting my journey through ISM with fashion merchandising. And before I get to that, I wanted to introduce my mentor, Miss Charmaine Snyder. She is the retail coordinator for 7 for All Mankind, and I wanted to thank her so much for allowing me to shadow her through these past months and allowing me to pick at her brain and kind of watch what she does in a normal day. So, a little bit about me. I'm a senior this year at Frisco High School. I'm in the STARS drill team, and I'm part of National Honor Society, and next year I'll be attending the University of Texas. Just to let you guys know a little bit more, I have 3 passions in life. It's traveling, dancing, and then fashion. And so those are pretty basic things. I'm an 18-year-old teenage girl. I mean, what more do you expect? So I kind of, more background is just my sophomore year in high school, I went to Duke University over the summer to study international law to kind of fuel my traveling, kind of needs to kind of explore the world and figure out life through that. And so I went ahead and studied international law. We discussed war crimes and children in war, and we were able to sit in on major court cases for the UN and kind of study and pick at other lawyers' brains about what life is that way. I went to North Carolina and the Netherlands during that summer and kind of got to see parts of the world I don't normally get to see, and kind of venture out into something I don't normally do on a daily basis, which is kind of watch major court cases on serious law adventures. And so I kind of went there and we researched all about these court cases, and we went to court and we were talking to attorneys who work on these major cases, and they were talking about how there's a minimum of 400 pages worth of court briefs and writing on a daily basis, almost. And for me, that was just kind of a little bit of a downfall because, 1, I'm not a very assertive, aggressive person, and 2, it's just writing that much hasn't been my strong suit. And I've taken law classes throughout that time period and kind of realized that writing those court briefs weren't really my thing, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to sit around and do paperwork all day. And so I kind of switched gears my junior year and started to pursue the dancing aspect of my passions. And so I went in and I was on the drill team, and I also went ahead and took an internship at Next Step Dance Studios for their hip-hop company there. And so I was able to help with the choreographers and help do routines, fill in for girls who couldn't make to certain competitions or events. And I got to do that, and it was a lot of fun because I love dance, and that's what I've always been doing. I've been doing it since I was 3 years old, and I thought, I really want to do it. I even decided to join ISM to try to pursue a dance career or internship, mentorship. And I went through that, and I went through my internship, and I went from the beginning of January through the end of the school year into maybe almost July. And at that point, I kind of got burnt out. It was just a lot of dancing, a lot of physical stress on my body. I had actually started causing back pain. I damaged a nerve in my back, and so I can't do too much now, past my limits, and I completely pushed myself past those limits. And also the person I was interning under, she also has, I've danced with her since I was 7 under a hip hop company in Dallas. She moved here to Frisco, and that's how I was able to get this internship. And I went through that, and even herself she lived her dream. She went to LA, and she was able to dance under major people like Justin Timberlake and do all kinds of commercials. But she ended up hurting herself during one of the stages, just being an assistant instructor. And she's actually going through major surgery and possibly will never be fully healed because of her dance injuries. And it's just something it's such a short career. And you probably only be relevant till you're about 35, and that's pushing it. And so kind of thinking that it's such a short-term kind of job, I wasn't really sure if I was able to keep steady in that industry. So finally, coming to my senior year, I decided to do something different. I was kind of looking online, trying to figure out, well, what can I do in fashion? I like that. And I've been pursuing things that I've liked before, so why not try going into fashion? And so I went ahead and looked around, and I saw that colleges under fashion, there was either fashion design or fashion merchandising. And I've already tried my hand at fashion design and realized I'm not much of a sewer. I can't sew anything really. I've tried to do dresses and they fall off my body. I never fit anything right. And so I wanted to try merchandising. And merchandising was something I came into this ISM class not really knowing what it was all about. I just kind of knew there was the basics. You could be a stylist or you could be a buyer. And those are the only two things I really knew what was under the fashion merchandising umbrella. And so I kind of wanted to pursue knowing what more can I do with this degree or this job umbrella. And I kind of wanted to take it from there, and that's where my ISM journey started. So this year I'm a first-year ISM student, and just so you know, ISM is an independent study mentorship. And so I went around going through research, doing interviews, and trying to find a mentor to help guide me through what fashion merchandising was. And so, like I said, I had no idea what fashion merchandising was, but that leads me to my quote of the year. There's too much to learn and too much to experience to give up opportunities that could potentially change my life. And so I took that quote that I found and I kind of applied it to this year. Like I said, there's too much to learn and too much to experience, and that's kind of what I took hold of. I'm normally a shy person. I don't really get out much. I don't interact with people on a professional basis. Adults kind of scare me, honestly. And so I kind of took this and push myself out of my comfort zone, out of my box, and kind of told myself that there really is too much to learn. It's too much to experience. I can't be afraid of falling in fear. I can't be in fear of the unknown like I normally am. I have to take it by the horns and just kind of go out and pursue something that I don't normally pursue. And so like I said, in ISM we do interviews. We're normally required to have to interview 5 people and looks for a mentorship, and also just getting more information about what we're pursuing. And so I actually was lucky enough to interview about 7 people, and I just kind of wanted to give an overview about 3 people who really impacted my journey and kind of left great imprints on me. So one of my first about 2 or 3 interviews was with Miss Rory Boyd. I don't have a picture of her, but she's a really sweet woman. She owns her own boutique. It's called Sussex Boutique. It's right across from Hunt Middle School. And I called her up, and she was immediately called. I missed her, I think, by just a minute or so. But she immediately called me back and told me she was so willing to do this interview, and she was telling me that next week, this time, we'll meet and we'll go have fun. And so I was really excited about that. She was one of the first people who was really excited to meet with me, and I kind of was, I don't know, the whole thing was, I know I use the word exciting, but it was exciting. It was a great experience. I went there thinking it would be a 30-minute interview, and actually ended up sitting there for almost 2 hours. It was a lot of information, and she was just such a sweet person. What I've noticed about her is that she treats every customer that walks in with absolute care. I think about 2 or 3 people came in during that time, and some of them, one of her customers she knew very well, but the other 2 were kind of sort of new or only been there once or twice. But she made sure to go out of her way and kind of go up to them, give them things that she knows they would look good in, and kind of treat them as their own personal stylist. And what was interesting about Miss Boyd was that she owns this boutique, does her own buying herself, and does interacts with customers with absolute care. What I noticed is when I walked in, she was actually in the middle of doing her buying process for the spring season, and I went there around September. So it shows you how quickly the fashion industry is going, how they plan ahead and plan for the future. And so it was really interesting. She actually let me watch her pick out certain outfit clothes, colors, and materials, and kind of said, this is what I want in my store, this is what I don't like. And she kind of told me that the way she does this is she knows her customers. And that's one of the key things in this industry is that you know your customers and you know what they like, so you buy what you know is going to sell. And so that was one of the first-hand things that I saw, and it was really cool to see something right off the bat in an interview about something so crucial as to buying. And so when I sat down with her to have a formal interview, she asked me what I wanted to major in when I went to college. And I told her that I was planning on doing maybe a fashion merchandising degree. Immediately before I could finish get anything else out, she cuts me off and says, "That's a horrible idea," which was, for me, a little bit shocking, but at the same time, I was really appreciative of her honesty. And she suggested to have a business degree because that's what she had. And she goes, the fashion industry is so ever-changing. It's quickly people rotating in and out that you don't need something to fall back on. You need a proper degree to hold on to. And so she said a business degree is one that you need most. And like I said, she knows her clothes and she knows her customers. She was always emphasizing the importance of knowing how the clothes hangs on a hanger and how it looks on a person. It fits different people. All clothes fit different people differently. The way it hangs on certain shapes and sizes is always different, so you always have to be aware of what looks good and what doesn't. The next person I interviewed was Miss Catherine Flad, and I was suggested for one of my interviews to call her, and she's the PR manager for Neiman Marcus. And what I loved about her is that she does various charity works under Neiman Marcus's name. A PR manager basically is a public relations manager. So what she does is she plans events for the charity work, the charity events, and also events where vendors come in and kind of pitch their sales as to these new clothing lines or new designs that are coming out in the spring or fall. And so she is in charge of coordinating anything that goes on inside or outside Neiman Marcus. What she told me is that retail is not a 9-to-5 job, and at this point a lot of people have told me that, but she took it beyond. She says sometimes she shows up in the mall around 7 o'clock in the morning, doesn't leave to maybe 11 p.m. or 12 a.m. at night, and so it's just a rigorous job. She's always on her toes, always having to go around the store, setting up displays or for certain events and taking things down. And so it's it was like an eye-opening thing because she does a lot of work, and it was just one of those things where people have told you how much work they do, like, oh yeah, it's a busy job, but for her, she really emphasized the point, and she was really, really sweet about it. And she just kind of also reached out and said if I needed anything ever at all, she was the one to call. And she's such a sweet person and open about it, and she kind of had a great impact just because of all the charity work she emphasized on. She was showing me things like how in a couple of weeks they're going to host a charity event where they celebrate the women who have done various works for the community and kind of honor them, dress them up, get their makeup done, have a gala for them, have a big nice ball, and honor the people who help the community as well as they do. So I really like that about her. Finally, my mentor is one of the other topics I wanted to touch on. This is Miss Charmaine Snyder, and like I said, she's a retail coordinator for Something for All Mankind. She said she started in retail as Nordstrom's as a normal sales associate and worked her way up to the buying team, which I thought was really cool. What I liked about her is that she had what I was looking for, and that was a really good understanding of every job in this industry, the fashion merchandising industry. And so what I liked about her is that she knew how everything worked. She kind of she knew how every cog in the clock worked. She knew these little people here and how they affected the big statistics of it all. How the sales associates affect the buying team, how the buying team affects the fashion director. And I'm throwing out big names and terms here, but it's kind of funny because she knows everything. I actually, from one of my interviews, picked up a list of all jobs that are underneath the fashion merchandising degree. Like, what can you go on if you got this degree? And she took a look at the list, and she goes, I know people here, here, and here, and I can hook you up with information there. And what I liked about her is she had many connections in the industry. She wasn't shy to give information at all, and she was always willing to help me connect with other people and kind of get what I wanted out of this ISM mentorship. And so she's been such a helpful person to me, and she's been so easy to talk to. Like I said before, I'm really shy, and it's hard for me to connect with people, especially those who are older than me. And she made it really easy for me to talk to. I actually, before my official interview with her, I met her at the ISM Business Symposium. And so what the Business Symposium is kind of like a mock interview process where we go in and kind of interview about three different people and kind of warm up to what an interviewing process is like. but she went out of her way to come talk to me before it all started, and she told me how excited she was to have our interview, and how she was so excited to be a part of the do this ISM project, even though it's just a business symposium. And she kind of showed me that she's really willing to help me and work with me, and that's what I really wanted in a person. And I mean, it's really easy to talk to her, and that's kind of a key point for me, since it's hard for me to open up to people. I found it very easy to open up to her, and so I kind of knew that she was the one, my mentor, and so I was really excited to pick her. It was kind of an easy process. As soon as we were done with our interview, I knew this is definitely going to be my mentor. So I was really lucky to have her, and she's done a great job working with me. So overall, through my interviews, the common advice given was that retail work is almost every day. It's sometimes a 6-day-a-week, 7-day-a-week job. No day is ever the same. Anyone I've ever talked to has told me this, whether they were setting up visual displays, or doing the buying teams, or even as my mentor is the retail coordinator. You're always on your toes, and you're never doing the same thing every day. Everything's always different. There's a new obstacle, a new task, a new challenge that you have to face. And one of the other things is that you have to have an eye for detail. Of course, it's a fashion industry, and you have to be able to be on your toes, keep up with the latest trend, and kind of know what's coming next, or see what's coming next. And then the last thing is, this industry requires people skills. And that's one of the things that I have challenged myself to work on, because I know I'm not much of an extrovert, I'm more of an introvert. And so people skills is something I plan on working on, and I'm working on to this day. And that's kind of one of the things, overall things that we have to learn. So during my first semester of ISM, we did a lot of research, and that was one of the key things. Interview and research were the two main things that we drilled on throughout the first semester of the school year. And so what I did is kind of whatever I didn't, most of the things with people who I was interested in interviewing and I didn't get the chance to, I kind of researched their jobs. And so I researched what is a personal stylist. And I've kind of learned a personal stylist, in a brief way, is somebody, it's not so much where you pick kind of clothes and dress them up like a Barbie doll. It's kind of, you have to get to know the person, and you have to understand what makes them comfortable, what makes them uncomfortable, and kind of you have to take their wardrobe and kind of vamp it in a way to where they're not completely out of their comfort zone, but just kind of enhance what they look like. I also researched what a fashion director was, and a fashion director is basically the head of either a department store or a clothing brand line, and they basically go to Fashion Week or work with the design teams, and they kind of declare and keep people aware of what is next. What are the latest trends? What do we need in our stores? What's going to sell well? I mean, because they're the ones who are going out, researching, going to Fashion Week, kind of picking out things like, this is what's going to sell well, this is what's going to be the newest thing, and they're kind of ahead of the game. They're kind of the informants. They take the runway to the stores, basically. And so that was pretty interesting. Other two things that were really important to my research in the first semester was the product development and visual displays. I actually learned about product development through the ISM UNT visit. I was able to sit down in a product development class and learn the basics about how taking products like your fabrics and your dyeing things, and how that affects the overall price at the end of the day for a shirt like I'm wearing myself. And so what the professor was talking about is how political things like oil prices, or how if China doesn't have good relations with the U.S., how that greatly affects the price of your clothing as it is today. Even so, like at one point my mentor even told me that right now there's an issue with the Chinese that are closing their ports to the U.S., and they're saying nothing's going in, nothing's coming out. And so a lot of people are having issues when their clothing are produced in China, as in sewn, colored, or dyed. And so what's happening there is that they can't get their shipments in, and so that's delaying the process. And so the prices will go up slightly or even greatly sometimes as an effect, because they are not able to get their products in on time. And so that's a really big deal, and how like just the little things that you don't think would have such a big impact on major industries kind of do when it all boils down to things. I also researched visuals displays, and so it was just kind of a minor thing because I was looking into kind of also a design aspect of the merchandising umbrella is what I call it. So visual displays are really key to any store, and it really affects how you sell your clothes. You want your best clothing to be in front, catching people's eye in order to kind of pull people in and kind of want to see what's in your store, or even so much buy your clothes. And you want to make sure things hang well, things look well, there's a nice color scheme going on, and it's really key and crucial to having a good sales rate in a good store, and kind of bringing in the customers that you want. And so through my research, I kind of came down to what my original work was going to be. So the first thing I wanted to touch on was the first product I made was a trend board. And so what I have here is when I went to UNT, the professor also allowed me to look through their student trend boards. And so basically what a trend board is like this one. This one's a hologram and iridescent kind of take. And so what they do is they take a texture or they take a pattern and they kind of fill it in and think, well, what's going to be the trend for this? Like this one would be a spring summer line. And so what they did is they took kind of like the basic textures of like bubbles or leaves and even glitter, and they kind of took it in like what would it look like in clothes and on fashion. And so they took skirts and jackets and things like that and kind of tied it into one main theme of like, this is what's going to be the newest thing, this is what people are going to wear, kind of this is the future of fashion. That's what a trend board is. Here's another one where it's, the pattern is mostly emphasized, and they took, if you can see back here, this is just I think vases and mirrors, and so they took that kind of design and kind of put it out with patterns and models and kind of showed like how things look and how it's like a more visually pleasing aspect of this is the future of what it's going to be, what fashion is going to be like, and these are the colors, these are the fabrics, these are the materials that we got inspired by. And so I did some work of my own and created my own, and before I get to this video, I have just the basics of the process of what I did. And so with the help of my mentor, she gave me the hint that in the fall, at least for jeans, that denim is going to be really in. Denim shirts, jackets, pants, skirts, everything is coming back again. It's like the 90s all over again, basically. And so we have all the denim that's coming back, and I kind of took things into my own hand with the rest, with the color scheme, because I noticed that this winter the main trend was black and white, or supposed to be at least. And so the main thing you saw on the runways last year were black and white kind of things. And so what step do you take when you go from those monochrome colors? What's the next thing you would do? And so I was inspired by the fall, like I've kind of gotten the mindset of fall, when the leaves fall, what the trees turn colors, their leaves turn colors, and like also hibernating animals. So I took, as you can see, the furs here, and then these colors, this color scheme right along here, and kind of drew inspiration and went through magazines, tore them up, went to the fabric store, got cuts of fabric together, and kind of threw it all onto a poster board, as you can see here, and kind of worked my way through it and kind of got the process in my mind. So basically I would go through here and just kind of put things on a board and kind of think, okay, this is what I like, this looks good. So I would go further, and each time I would do this, I would put things on and wipe everything off, keep what I like in a certain area, and then put everything back on again. And so it basically got down to this point. I don't have right now a visual display. I normally have my whole board here. But so what I did is I framed pieces that I liked. Over here is the color scheme I have. Over here is kind of the look inspiration, which is kind of the 60s look over here, when I wanted for my fall and colors of the browns and the green tones here, more of my earth tones, and then the blues up here. And so I kind of put everything together and decided this is what the trend board of 2015 was going to be for the fall winter line. And I made this product. Our original work was due January 31st, and Fashion Week doesn't start until around February, and midweek around Valentine's Day or so. And so this is one of the Italian one of the shows from the Italian Fashion Week, and just to give a little look as to how correct I was on my trim board. So I'll fast forward a bit here.
Whose show was this?
Oh darn, I can't remember at the top of my head right now. It wasn't really, it wasn't one of the major brands. It's more like the leather designers. Oh my gosh, what was it? In Italy. So as you can see, it has like the red earth tone kind of thing. This is what I touched on. And further down, blues. Let's get a short clip. So as you can see here, there's just a little bit, and I'll stop here, is with the yellow, the reds, and the kind of the earth tones, and along with the furs, is kind of what I predicted was what was going to be the latest trends. And so I was actually kind of seeing it on the runway and kind of seeing that I was kind of, I mean, I wasn't planning on being so spot on, but the fact that it was in these shows is kind of like, it kind of made me a little bit giddy and happy that it was like, oh, I was right, I got something right. And so it was kind of fun for me to put together something and see it kind of play out that way. And so another thing I did in a two-part of my original works was a planogram, and I was actually touring Baylor University. I was going through their fashion merchandising program, and they showed me some of their work for their final product, their final project of the year. And so they were doing planograms. And so what a planogram is, it's just kind of like a layout of how clothes should be displayed on the racks or on the shelves, and kind of a guideline for people, for sales associates who are putting things up on the rack. Okay, this is how it should look, and it should be in this order with this color coordination. So it's kind of it's a really crucial and basic thing to a store, and it's kind of like a general layout. It's like, this is how we want our clothes to look on the shelves. And so I kind of did one for my own. This is like a freehand sketch of a planogram. I didn't have a planogram software at the time. And so what I did was touched on key points with my mentor. And so for denim lines, what's crucial is that you have to have your pants either on the wall or on the table. And that really gives the customer a good look of like what the jeans look like, how it gives them the feel of like, oh, this is what it's going to look like on me. So when they want to try it on, they kind of already have a clue of like, okay, this is how it lays out. And so that's a key point. And so I did everything. I did my color schemes, and I did the tables, and tried to recreate a planogram as closely as possible, and try to stay true to the brand as well. And so next I'm going to touch on my mentor experiences. And I just want to say I had such a wonderful time with my mentor. I was able to follow her and go to multiple stores. We went to the Willowbend Mall, the Galleria Mall, Stonebriar, and we kind of jumped from store to store, kind of fixing up displays and talking with sales associates, trying to get information as to what sells well in your stores, what doesn't sell well. Questions that my mentor always asked the sales associates when we went to the denim department was, if you could have one pair of jeans that are always in stock that never goes out, what would that be, and why is that? And it was one of those key points for her as a vendor in these stores. It's just because she knows what is selling well, what they need to keep in mind, what they need to tell back to the design department at 7 headquarters, to where what sells well in this Dallas area, what we need to be pushing here, what we think if there's any new designs, like, oh, this is going to do well here. And so that's kind of what we went through. And this is me and my mentor in Stonebriar Mall. This is the men's department here. And at Stonebriar Mall, we do have a very limited kind of collection amount. There's not a lot of things on replenishment products. So with the replenishment, as a replenishment product, there's like the basic jeans, your normal blue washes, and you're skinny, you're straight leg, and your boot cut. Those are kind of the 3 simple things that you always want to have in replenishment, because those are basic jeans and everyone's going to buy a normal pair of jeans basically. And what we had a problem with is not a lot of people, or not a lot of the stores in, like, especially the Frisco area, there wasn't a lot of